Yeah. The good news, November 22nd, you're at the City Winery in Boston. And I
Yes.
hear you've sold out already.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Is that amazing?
Well, then. Oh, that's great. Boston has always been a really great city for us,
Well,
and
my friend
we love coming there.
Johnny V calls me today. He owned a record label, Pure and Easy. I love the Smithereens. I said, I can't talk, Johnny. I got to go interview, Smithereens. I love them. So he's in a wheelchair. He can't get out, but you got fans. It's great.
That's great. Well, Boston was a town that even before the band formed, if there was a group playing in Boston, we'd travel from New Jersey to see them there. It was always a great city for us. Even before we got signed, we would come up and play places like Storyville and the Rathskeller. And we established a fan base early on. We love coming there. The restaurants, the bars, the people. It's a wonderful place for us.
There's a Rathskeller Facebook page my friend Kathy Logue created.
Oh, Kathy. I know Kathy.
You know Kathy Logue?
Oh, we first met her probably in 83 or 84.
She's the best. And she started this rap page. I think there's 10 to 11,000 people on it.
Wow, I got to check that out. Please tell Kathy we send our love.
I will when I get home. She's great.
Yeah.
So she started this page, and it's really influential and important. And with, all those people, and they'll, I'll put this interview up on that page because you mentioned the Rat. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will probably see it because there's the fan base.
Yeah.
And there is no Rat. And, we got the Paradise, no Storyville, no club in Cambridge. They just evaporate.
Cambridge has no clubs anymore?
Oh, no, they have the Middle East.
Oh, they still have the Middle East. Okay.
Right. But the club in Cambridge was around the corner. Mm-hmm. And then they became Nightshade, and they went from punk rock bands like mine to Diana Shore. They went to a whole other, Buddy Guy would play, and Mick Taylor and John Cale. So
I guess Club 47 is long gone, right?
No, it's still there. It's under the name Passim.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so Passim is the old Club 47, and they're still very eclectic.
Oh.
I mean, you guys would jam that place like 10 nights in a row because it's, 120 seats, 150?
Uh-huh.
But John Sebastian plays there, and...
Does Jim Queskin still go back and play there?
I don't remember seeing his name on any of the... of course, I don't see it all, but I haven't seen Queskin's name other than in record albums in a while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's in the same location that it always was?
I believe so. The Harvard Coop is the next street over. So you got the Harvard Coop bookstore, which is really Barnes & Noble. But then you've got the Passim, which I'm pretty sure it's the old Club 47. We can Google it, but there it is, and there's folk music there. And it's a nice place to... They got water on the table, and they've got, I think the Middle East has something to do with it now. Maybe they run the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So the Middle East nightclub has or had some affiliation with Passim. And I believe Passim is the old Club 47.
Wow. So, I'll check that out if I get a minute when we're in town.
Yeah. Boston.
I was first made aware of it from listening to Jim Queskin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Have you played the City Winery yet? Before?
Yes, we have.
Great room.
Yeah, we played. It is a good room. It was either late last year or earlier this year. I think it was last year we played there. Yeah. And this, how old is that venue? It's fairly new, isn't it?
Yeah, I first saw Ian Hunter there because his drummer is a good friend of mine, Steve Hawley. And
Steve. I know Steve, sure.
Yeah, so Steve would play there with Ian, and Ian and Trudy are just wonderful, just great people. And, of course, he'd pack the room. And then I saw Peter Noon there, I think in July. Hermits.
Sure.
He packed the room, and he did 2 shows, 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock.
We saw him. We're friends with Peter too, and we saw him last year, and he did a Christmas show. It was just amazing, a really wonderful show. He still sounds great. He has such a youthful vitality to him, even though he's not a very young man anymore. But he did a great show.
He still looks young, and he's a master showman. Did you know he had a band called the Tremblers during the New Wave movement?
Sure.
I opened for them.
Records.
Yeah.
Johnson Records.
Yeah. So I opened for them at the Paradise.
Did you?
So I've known Peter since 1980.
Yeah. Now, when you saw Ian Hunter, was James Mastro in his band?
I forget. He might have been.
Yeah.
He's got some of the Cougar people, right?
Beg pardon?
He has some of the Cougar people.
Oh, he might have Andy York.
Yeah, he does, from Mellencamp. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've played a number of times with Andy. He's so great. And James Mastro, who used to play in the bongos, has been in his band quite a bit. And I'm currently doing gigs with James. He has his own album out now, so I'm playing with him as well. Yeah. Sounds like we know a lot of the same people.
Well, Smithereens, what can I say? Who is lead singing at this event on the 22nd?
Robin Wilson from Gin Blossoms.
Yeah, I don't think it's Marshall Tucker this time, right?
Nor is it Marshall Crenshaw.
Marshall, I'm sorry.
Right.
You're my third interview today, and I get like mush. It's really weird doing these interviews. I've done like 1,000 now, and you walk out frazzled. Because you're always thinking of the next question, and you're listening, and you know how it goes. But we're having fun here.
Absolutely.
I know you got this new record out with like outtakes and stuff. It's not new, but it's.
Oh, I think you're referring to the Lost album?
Yes.
Yes, that was a batch of tunes we cut when we were between labels in 1993. And we, shortly after we cut those, we got signed to RCA. Our intention was to release that ourselves. Then we got signed, and we did a whole new recording in short order after that for RCA. So we pretty much let those tapes sit on the shelf for quite a few years. And we're going through our cupboard, and we came across them. We played them, and they sounded great. Fortunately, I had a DAT. I don't know how many people out there remember DAT tapes, but I had a digital audio cassette, basically. And I had a DAT of the mixes, so we were able to get really good sounding mastering on this album. And it's funny; it's a bunch of songs that seem to hold up real well. People like the album. Some people are saying they think it's our best record.
Interesting.
I don't really.
Wow.
I don't think it is, but I think it's pretty good and it holds up well. It's been out for a while, so it's not real new, but it's probably new for a lot of people, the ones who haven't heard it anyway.
Do you know producer Rob Fraboni?
I don't think I've crossed paths with him. I might have, though. I might have.
I work with Rob. We've been working together 36 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But he told me that the DAT tape, it goes back to its original format. So the record labels didn't know this, that when they put a lot of the masters and then destroyed the masters, that the DAT tape was reverting to the original way the tape was, and they were losing part of the songs. All I'm saying is I'm glad you preserved it and have it on CD now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad too.
No, it's just strange that those DATs just don't hold up the way we thought they would.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is the machinery. The playback, the decks themselves are quirky and temperamental. So I'm told the one way to get around that, if anybody out there has some old DATs that they want to archive, and you have a DAT machine and it's giving you trouble, try putting it on its side, believe it or not.
Interesting.
That might align things. Just a little tip out throw out there.
I don't use mine, but I keep it. I preserve it, right? And I just have my engineer just, you do it with yours. But now I know I have a backup.
You know.
No, that's cool. So what kind of set can we ask, or you can surprise people? You don't have to tell us.
Well, yeah, without going into specifics, any band that's had a history, and we've had a history, in March, it's going to be 45 years that we've been together.
Isn't it amazing?
Wow. And so we've amassed quite a few songs, but naturally we are going to play all the hits and the songs that are still familiar with our listeners and fan base. But we like to dig into the album tracks and do some covers and basically just have fun, Really, I think we've lasted 45 years because we do have fun. And our audience has fun. They sense that we're having a great time up there. And it informs them. It makes them have a good time. And a lot of our fans that are coming out to see us, they came to see us back in the day. We played a lot of colleges in the 80s and a lot of clubs, but a lot of they were students back then. They graduated, they had families and careers, and now they're empty nesters and retired, and they're coming back to see us, and they're kind of reliving their and our glory days. And they're just having the times of their lives, and we are too. Jimmy Babjak, our guitarist, and I, whenever we hit the stage, we have this telepathy, and this kind of shared feel that we feel like we're teenagers again, And I think that's what keeps us going too, is that we just love what we do, and we don't know how to do much else. So,
no, the Smithereens are always about fun, and I'm glad that you've maintained that, because some bands go through the motions, and why? You got to have fun doing it.
Yeah.
Because the audience knows. They pick up.
I think you're right. They do. And that's, I don't know. People, I don't know what to say. I agree with you. It's the only way to do it is to enjoy what you're doing. Because otherwise it's just like you might as well work in a shoe store.
Those 70-year-olds coming to see you think they're 19.
Yeah.
They still think they're 19 and they want to relive that. I think, not everyone, but I think there's a big core of people that just like, I want to see the Smithereens tonight, like I'm going to a club in the 80s. And in Boston, with your history with BCN and, like you said, the Storyville, I haven't heard that name in years.
Yeah. Yeah, we played them. There was another place in Cambridge. Oh man, I wish I could remember there was like a man's club. Oh, what was the name?
Oh, Man Ray.
Man Ray.
Man Ray. I was the first booking agent.
No, I don't think it was Man Ray. It was like it had
TT the Bears,
like gentlemen, or beg pardon.
There was Man Ray, the Middle East, and TT the Bears, and the Cantab. All in a couple of.
All right. Well, we played 3 of those.
Wow. Did you play the Cantab?
No, I think it was the other ones you mentioned. Definitely.
TT the Bears.
Yeah, we played there.
And Middle East took that over. And so it's no longer TT's, but the Middle East has a complex now of. They just wanted to run it as well. They were the landlords. Man Ray was weird because I think there was too much competition. And the Cantab has been there since 1938.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I was publicist twice because I played there in 74, so who better to be publicist, right? The guy who's been there 50 years.
Yeah,
so
I would say.
It was a fun room, but now it's kind of more corporate. So you the whole thing in Cambridge is different, except for the Middle East. it's still what it is. But yeah, Cambridge has kind of lost its mojo, and now you've got the place you're playing, City Winery.
Yeah.
Because of City Winery and a bunch of like beer halls down on the Cape Cod, there seems to be this whole a chain of beer halls, and they have artists come in and they have audiences there. So the whole complexion of where we used to play has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
It's 50 years on.
Yeah, things do change, don't they, with time?
Well, you see, the Kenmore Square, the Rathskeller, and that whole the Boston Club complex. Boston University wanted that out. They didn't like rock and rollers in the city. They would fine the bands if they put posters up. You'd literally get a parking ticket for your poster. Bands were like furious. They were getting like these parking tickets for posters in Kenmore Square, and they really the Kenmore board of directors, whatever they had there, they had some bizarre Kenmore club, and they ousted it all, and then they sold it to the Commonwealth Hotel. So all that history has been changed. And Kathy's page getting 10,000, 11,000 members shows that there was an audience for that.
Mm-hmm. And where was the channel?
The channel was over at South Station. You know South Station where the trains come?
Not really, but I know we played there at the channel.
Yeah, the Amtrak ends at South Station. And that's where the it's kind of like, well, that's where the channel was across the water. It's gone now, but it was the Mad Hatter. It was like a disco bar. And the Boris Brothers bought it. And I headlined the Saturday night when it opened. And there was a riot there. So Harry Boris has a podcast now on the channel. And if you guys played there and remember it, he'd love to talk to you, to have you on his podcast about the channel. So that exists as a podcast, and Kathy has the Rat existing as a Facebook page. But
it's great. Well, it's history, isn't it? It's history, and it's stuff that matters to us. So it's important to keep memories alive, stoke memories, and know from whence we came.
Well, I think 200 years from now, where we don't have Bach, Beethoven, and Shakespeare all talking, but you're talking to me, and if this digital stuff survives, 200 years from now, people will AI it, and they'll be having you in the room.
Right. Oh boy, I should have put a pair of socks on.
Giving lectures at colleges, from the 200-year-old audio tape. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It may come sooner than you think.
So what was the demo that got the deal for the Smithereens?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because one of the songs, well, let me backtrack. We had been kicking around for, at that point, about 5 years before we got signed, okay? And we went into the record plant in New York City, fabulous studio where so many great artists worked, and we recorded 5 songs in one night. And this is with no producer. This is just the band and the engineer. And we recorded 5 songs that appeared on our first album, especially for you: Cigarette, Crazy Mixed Up Kid, Alone at Midnight, Blood and Roses, and Behind the Wall of Sleep. And those 5 songs were the actual basic tracks and vocals that appeared on the LP. They were later sweetened a bit when Don Dixon came in to produce. But every label, major and minor, were turning us down. Everybody. And those were the 5 songs. Now, Behind the Wall of Sleep was inspired. Pat DiNizio was inspired to write that song after seeing the Bristols perform at the Paradise.
Whoa.
I don't know if you know that, but she had hair like Jeannie Shrimpton back in 1965. She had legs that never ended. That was inspired by seeing the Bristols. So again, Boston plays into our history in a big way. So that demo was circulated. We're getting shut down by everybody except for Enigma Records, which was a very forward-thinking, independent label that had good distribution through EMI at the time. They gave us a shot, and through a series of happy accidents and flukes, and I guess good timing and good material, we got airplay and MTV play on Blood and Roses. It was almost shocking to us after kicking around at that point for 6 years and just having, regional success. And we did go abroad to Scandinavia, and we got out of the tri-state area for a while, but to actually have a presence on the national and eventually worldwide stage was a real big deal for us. So I remember that era with great fondness, I must say.
Do you remember a guy named Steve Ricardo at Enigma?
Steve Ricardo?
He signed the band Poison.
Was he in? Okay, I must have known him, but I can't place him offhand.
You remember the A&R man that signed him?
That signed who?
Smithereens.
Yeah, Scott Vanderbilt.
Okay, Scott. All right.
Yeah. Do you know Scott?
No, but Ricardo was the program director of WGJM. He was a college kid.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, I want you to vouch for me at Enigma. And I had Green World distributing me. Remember Green World? Yeah. Enigma had a distributor called Green World. So I called Paul Marotta. Do you know that name?
Yes, but rings a faint bell.
Yeah, so he was running things over there, and he laughed and said, if the guy doesn't work out, I'll stop distributing you. Well, they went bankrupt anyways. Green World. Mm-hmm. But Ricardo got the gig, and he signed Poison, so I didn't know if you guys crossed paths. But that's that story. It's a long rock and roll trek, and I'm glad, unlike...
Yeah, and
Joan Jett didn't get... Every record label turned her down, too. You know that, right? Joan Jett, the Smithereens, the band Boston.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but you're cutting in.
Oh. Joan Jett and the band Boston, they all got rejected.
Yeah.
Heck, Bobby Hebb's Sonny, remember that song?
Sure.
Bobby lived up here. 45 publishers all turned it down.
Isn't that amazing? Well, there's a lesson there. You really, if you believe in what you're doing, just stick with it as long as you have to, And it can be dispiriting and discouraging, all that rejection. But if it's what you love and what you want to do, and you believe in what it is you're putting out there, you just keep on keeping on, man.
Did you remember producer Jimmy Miller, the Rolling Stones?
Yes. Did he live in Boston for a while?
I was his manager. That's why he came to Boston.
Because we met him at a show in Boston. He wanted to produce us.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wasn't there, but I was his manager. So he was under contract to me. So anyways, we go into New York all the time. And we bring a briefcase of demos. And 3 A&R men, 3, would say to me, do you have any Willie Loco Alexander? I can't sign him, but I love him.
Yeah.
And I opened my briefcase because I was Willie's manager too. Here's a cassette. Oh, thank you, Joe, right? 3 A&R men. We'd walk out, and Jimmy was the first A&R man for Island. Him and Guy Stevens. Mm-hmm. Guy Stevens had Mott the Hoople. Jimmy had Traffic and Steve Winwood, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Jimmy would shake his head. Joe, I signed what I liked. They like Willie, and they won't sign him. He goes, I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, did they say why they couldn't sign him?
Well, because obviously he was a cult figure. I signed him to RCA in Europe, and he did very well in Europe, but it was New Rose Records, and we had RCA distribution. Mm. So when he was on MCA, Polygram was interested, and RCA America was interested, but he went with Greg Shaw at the time because he had a relationship with Greg. But I got him on the New Rose RCA imprint in London, 1980. No, in Paris, 1980. And he did very well putting stuff out, but he was like one of the last members of the Velvet Underground.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, they they said to him, we're going to play Europe, but we're not going to be the Velvet Underground. Mo Tucker and Doug Yule, right? I think Sterling Morrison. There's an album called Final VU. And so Willie had nightmares of Lou Reed because they made him be the Lou Reed for the final tour.
Oh, jeez.
And then MCA used that. But, Willie actually sounded very Velvet Underground, but again, he wasn't utilized the right way. It's just how funny people, the major labels, again, we discussed it. They don't let artists be what they are. You want the Mona Lisa, don't tell Leonardo how to paint.
Right. Now, you said you mentioned Greg Shaw from Bump Records?
Yeah. Yeah. So Greg had a relationship and put out Kerouac, and he offered some money, and they decided, let's work with Greg in America. And Greg was a friend of mine, so I didn't want to fight it. But, New Rose said, hey, RCA in America wants Willie. I said, it's a little late. He's happy with Bump, being the cult figure. And I think he had a bad taste in his mouth from the MC8 thing.
Yeah.
They homogenized him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that the Smithereens, that's exciting that the first album that you actually used the demos on the album.
Yeah, it's really cool when I think about it, because that night, too, it was Good Friday of 1985, April of 85, and we were working at the record plant for a couple of years already. For those who don't know, the record plant, all kinds of wonderful artists worked there, from Bruce Springsteen, John Lennon, Mountain recorded there, the Raspberries recorded there. So many cool records were made there. And we had an in there, and we were able to cut there. And the night we did those 5 tracks, we almost didn't do the session because we were used to working in the big rooms on the main floor, but some big name booked them last minute, and they kicked us upstairs to a smaller room, and we were considering waiting until we can go back into the big room. But fortunately, we went up and cut those 5 tracks in one session that night. And had we not done that, who knows what would have happened. So we did it without a producer. Like I said, when Don Dixon came in to finish the album, he had us add some different layers of vocals and other production technique layers and things on there. So anyway, but they are essentially the recordings we did that night in April of 85.
And it's great that Dixon gave his blessing.
I know. Well, he recognized that there was a certain magic in those recordings that you probably weren't going to duplicate by trying to recreate them, So as with any great record, the proof is in the grooves and in the sounds and in the feel of what you do. So why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And with all this touring that you do, have you recorded any of the gigs and thought of like a best of the live stuff?
We did put out a live album. Yeah, this is going back early 2000s. We did a live album, and we recorded it at, instead of recording it at some big venue, we went back to the Court Tavern in New Brunswick, a small room where we played before we got signed back in the early 80s, but it was kind of like our cavern club. It was a downstairs venue and you're right there up against the audience, pretty tight room. But we knew we'd get an exciting performance and an exciting reaction from the crowd. We did. And we were pretty proud of that record. So, yeah, it's cool you mentioned live albums. They're such a staple, aren't they, of our listening history and our growing up. And I'm sure a lot of us can name our favorite live albums. It's a big component of our fandom, wouldn't you say?
Well, with Rob Wilson and Marshall Crenshaw and Marshall Tucker all working with you. Oh, I'm sorry, Marshall. With Wilson and Crenshaw and the reinvention of the songs in 2024 kind of with different singers.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one DVD I reviewed, and they took YouTube videos and videos from the fans, and they found exciting versions that they didn't have, and they put a DVD out. And there's always that potential too of like, wow, this fan caught this moment, which is really excellent. And I don't know, but I think the way you're touring now, if you're getting the soundboard tapes, maybe the Smithereens bootleg 2024.
Yeah, or maybe you'll do it for 2025. But
it's the end of the year, isn't it?
Yeah, geez, really something how time is flying. But you're right. I mean, I guess the Grateful Dead fans used to do that amongst themselves with cassettes, right? They would tape all the shows and swap them. But it is a fun thing to do.
You can go on archive.org for the Dead. I think the Dead doesn't let out the soundboard tapes, but they do let the fans put their tapes out. And I was like, well, I'm not a big Dead fan, but boy, they do the Beatles. So let's collect all the Beatles songs they do and all the Stones songs. And that'd be a great tribute album. The Dead does the Beatles.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that and the word bootleg, because back in the 70s when bootlegs were pretty new, like early 70s, I mean, you would have to look for ads in Rolling Stone and send your money to usually someplace on the West Coast and wait sometimes a month or two to get your bootleg delivered to you. And now, it was a special occasion to hear unreleased material, and to think how different that experience was from now. Like you say, going on YouTube. And I mean, I do it every night before I go to sleep. I'll just always find a few things to watch before I go to sleep on YouTube. It's just staggering the amount of rare appearances and interviews you can find at your fingertips. And it was just a different world back then. And in a way, it made it more special, I suppose. But I love digging through, like seeing old clips of the Small Faces or the Kinks or the Beach Boys. It's just, and TV shows too, or old commercials. It's just incredible how easy it is to find things.
Do you remember Liver Than You'll Ever Be by the Stones?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It forced them to do Yayas, which are two of my favorite albums. I mean, the boot and the official. They're fantastic. But if you go to YouTube, there were two shows for Liver Than You'll Ever Be, and only one was on the LP. So you can watch both the, I think, afternoon and evening concert from that amazing bootleg.
And that's of the Garden Show?
No, that's Get Your Yayas Out. I'm talking about the bootleg.
Oh.
Was Oakland. It was like the Oakland something or other.
Okay.
And they do Give Me Shelter. They sound like the Velvet Underground. It's just an amazing show. And, the Stones were always changing it up.
Yeah.
And that was just a great bootleg because it captured them and it forced out Get Your Yayas, which is another great show. And so thanks to bootlegs, we've got now two different looks.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for history.
I agree. I think it's all there to be had, and it's all interesting and informative and entertaining. Yeah.
Do you see Smithereens concerts on YouTube that you didn't authorize?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah, just let them be because, they help promote the band, actually.
That's true. And I like to see them. So, yeah, I'm going to put them up. I don't care.
And if they hit 2 million, you can collect the money off the YouTube advertising.
That's 2 million. There you go. But it's fun to find older clips, of things you maybe didn't know were being shot or you forgot about. And it's just a big old sea of video out there. It's incredible.
What's important too is I'm producer for Bobby Hebb now that he's passed away. He was one of my best friends. So the estate has me producing him. And there's like the Four Tops doing a practice for a TV show of Sonny. Now they did Sonny on the record, but I had to grab it and put it onto an MP4 from YouTube because then, Universal would take it down or something would happen. But for the family and for the estate, I need to preserve this stuff. A lot of advertising. Bobby had Sonny was just in a Mercedes-Benz commercial.
Oh yes, I think I heard about that. Yeah.
So I'm out there capturing for the manager, the commercials, and then they disappear. And it's a good thing I made the MP4 because you'll never find them again.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah. Now, I have a question for you. Was Sonny recorded in Nashville?
No. Jerry
Was it
Ross. Yeah, Jerry Ross, who did Spanky and Our Gang, and Jerry Butler. Yeah. Jerry was a friend of mine, too. Mm-hmm. He died on Janis Joplin's anniversary, October 4th, I think 6 years ago.
He was from Philadelphia, is that right?
Yeah, he was the Philly Sound. Gamble and Huff worked for him.
Okay.
So Bobby's final single on Phillips was Gamble and Huff. They produced Bobby Hebb. It's a very rare single. It goes for, if you can find it for $40, good luck, because it goes for like 100. So you know what Northern Soul is?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so Bobby's a big Northern Soul star like Doris Troy and Edwin Starr. And when you got that Northern Soul hook, the Gamble and Huff single was promotion only. And it's magnificent. It's just a terrific Bobby Hebb slice of history. And we've got it on the box set, but it's amazing. He had this monster song and Phillips kept putting 45s out. Wouldn't give him an album. And why he didn't sign with Gamble and Huff like Lou Rawls did. Because Lou got a Grammy doing a Bobby Hebb song, Natural Man.
Uh-huh.
Lou got the Grammy for 1970 Male Vocal of the Year. So Bobby got 2 Grammys, Sonny and Natural Man.
So was Sonny cut in New York or Philly?
New York.
Was it at Bell Sound? Do you know where it was cut?
I think it was Bell Sound.
And who's on bass? Is it Joe Macca?
I do not know, and I should.
Do you know who's on drums?
Nope. Bernard Purdy cut the demo.
Okay.
And the demo, they made 100 acetates, which we're desperately looking for because Ben Tucker, the bassist, it was Ben Tucker, Bernard Purdy, and Bobby Hebb, and they cut this demo. And Ben Tucker had it, and he was in a horrible accident in a golf cart crossing the road, and some speeding guy killed him.
Oh.
Peggy Lee's bass player, Ben Tucker. So they were going to fly me down to go through all his tapes, which aren't labeled, and then they never did. And so now we've got the Mercury demo, which Jerry Ross preserved. Bobby owned it, but Jerry preserved it. And we're looking for this great. Bernard told me, he goes, we knew it was a hit, and it's magnificent. So like the demo is like, I'm desperate to find it. But they did a demo, then Mercury did a second demo, probably in New York, and then I think it was Bell Sound. You're right. And I got to look that up.
Yeah, it's so it's funny because the Los Angeles union contracts are pretty ubiquitous out there, but the New York ones that would list the personnel for some reason were either destroyed or they're buried somewhere. It's very difficult to find that kind of information for New York.
Yeah, and Jerry's not here for me to ask him.
Yeah.
Because we were good friends, and he wrote, I'm going to make you love me. And the guy was a genius. He had that sunshine pop sound, Keith, 98.6. And Spanky and Our Gang, Sunday Will Never Be the Same. He was the master producer of that sunshine pop. But the Philly sound as well.
Did he write Ink? Did he write Ink on a Lie?
I don't know. I'd have to look at my Keith albums.
Yeah, I love that record so much, man.
All those Keith records were perfectly made.
Yeah,
I mean, the poor guy only one hit.
Well, Ink on a Lie did okay, and Tell Me to My Face did okay, but yeah, nothing like 98.6.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to hear the Smithereens with Jerry Ross producing.
I love that Ace compilation on Jerry, that CD that Ace put out.
Really They're great.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. He was the man.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of fun talking to you. We can keep talking if you like. This is great.
Did you know Jerry Ragavoy?
Oh, I wish I did.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Joplin fan.
Yeah.
And
But Ragovoy's another unsung dude, you know.
well, Genya Raven did. What did she do? Lorraine Ellison had the hit, and Genya recorded it.
Oh yeah.
Why? No.
Not Stay With Me, Baby.
Yep, Stay With Me, which was Bette Midler did in The Rose.
And the Walker Brothers did it too.
Really?
It was the same song. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it is. A great version too. Yeah.
Ragovoy was the man.
Yeah.
You know, Howard Tate doing Get It While You Can.
Yeah. Forget it. Yeah.
And Joplin going through the catalog. And, one of my favorites from her is Trust Me, which is on the Pearl album.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, the Pearl album. To me, that's the sleeper. It's like her most magnificent vocal. Bobby Hall. No, not Bobby Hall. Bobby. I'm just having a mental lapse. Bobby something wrote the song, and he appeared on the album, on the Pearl album, playing on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Bobby Womack.
Oh.
So he wrote it for Janis, and then he covered it later.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, check out Trust Me. It's on YouTube. It's amazing. And her voice just, all the greats can hardly touch her. She's just so good on it.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a fun chat with you on music and history. We
could do a whole other show sometime where we don't have to talk about the Smithereens. We'll just talk about records.
Well, I'd love to do that. We've been doing this. We've done over 1,000 interviews. Jodie Foster's been on the show.
Uh-huh.
I got 2 hours with Ray Manzarek.
Cool.
Yeah. And John Densmore was on the show. Mark Farner. Boy, he got a lot of fans. I got a lot of hits on Mark Farner.
I'll bet.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And then, Mark and I are friends. He just opens up and we just, have a good time talking.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter Noon, of course. Peter's amazing.
Peter really is something else. And he's got really great recall, too, And like I could ask him. I'll ask him because, the Hermits didn't play on all their own records, but he'll tell me who played drums on what track, I love learning that stuff. So, and he remembers, oh no, that was Bobby Graham on that one, and Andy White on that one, and Clem Catini on that. So it's really great that he remembers all that stuff.
Look up my recent interview because I threw time as there's a kind of hush at him, and he went on about John Paul Jones playing the bass and conducting the strings at the same time, and it's great. It's a great nugget. But you just lob a question at Peter, and he'll go on.
Yeah, I know.
And you're a great guest like that too. I love that.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of stuff in common. I'm sure we can go on for a couple hours and just all the tributaries will lead there and there and there. But,
Well, I'd like to, and I'll send John Lappin a bunch of questions in another date because they got to close the station, or my producer's got to leave at 5, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it again for sure.
Yeah. Oh, thanks so much. This has been a great conversation, and you've sold out, so you didn't even have to do it.
But I'm glad we did. It's a pleasure to speak with you, and we'll chew the fat some other time, and we'll just have a ball.
Thanks, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me on, and thanks to everybody in Boston. I really mean that. It really has been a special city and still is for us. And like I said, going back to our Scufflin' days, so we're always thrilled to come back to Boston. It means an awful lot to us. Thank you very much.
Cool. We'll talk soon, and thanks to John Lappin.
Okay. Stay in touch.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.